some power brakes. I haven't really talked about them much, but the truck has power brakes, obviously. The previous incarnation of it had a big double diaphragm vacuum booster from a big Dodge pickup truck. This version, I'm using something called Hydro Boost. This device here is a power brake booster. However, it uses hydraulic pressure from the power steering pump to achieve the boost rather than vacuum from the engine. I just like the idea of it. I had one on a van recently, and man, it had beautiful brakes. So I thought I'd try that. So this booster came out of a Astro van, actually, which is the same type of van that I had. Unfortunately, the mounting flange is almost exactly the same 4 holes as the Series III pedal tower. I've got it mocked up temporarily with threaded rod here. It won't be like this permanently, but at least I can set the spacing properly like that. And then I'll just replace the threaded rod with 2 plates with a tube welded between them. And so that'll create the permanent mounting bracket for that. I wasn't going to mount the booster upside down because a lot of people do when they do conversions. It's kind of tidier because all the hydraulic fittings end up on the bottom. But in a Land Rover, I'm not really so concerned with tidy as I am with accessibility. So I'm going to mount it right side up. Another reason I'm mounting it right side up is when I had it upside down, I noticed this great big notch here. I don't know if you can see that. That's a drain notch. And if it was in the top, it would have been a filler. Grit and junk would have been getting in. I could have ground another slot in the bottom, but I just didn't like the idea of all that. So I'll set that all up. Master cylinder. I had originally thought I would use the master cylinder that I got with this, which is this one. Too wide, too tall, kind of fouls the fender, so I won't worry about that now. What I'm using is a relatively common, what's known in the GM world as the Corvette Master. These come in variable displacements, and they're very, very good value. This one was $49 or something like that. So that should be straightforward, and it fits inside the fender a lot nicer. I had to move the shuttle valve, which was mounted down here, basically underneath the Master, right next to the wheel practically. I made my own bracket over here, so I'll run the lines over here and then down and away. So that should work out pretty slick. Anyway, let me make up some brake lines. Nice seat box, eh? All insulated and Ranelite inside. Got the factory toolbox on that side and the toolbox I had made on this side. I just set it in because I'm going to try and make up my own center box here, which I'm going to put the air equipment in. But anyway, it didn't sit right, and it didn't sit right because of that. Oh, jeez. I thought I had it all figured out, but this toolbox, of course, is not original, and it's sitting on the emergency brake bracket. So I'm not too worried though, because I can trim off, I mean this 5/8 of an inch of this, or throw at least ½ inch of this is sound insulation. And I can trim a little bit off the outside of this bracket and it won't affect its structural ability at all. So I'll just cut out some of this insulation, cut out some of that steel, and everything will be fine. It's a little ugly, but okay, well, I got it. Let's have a look at the carnage. I don't know if you can see under here, so I've cut out the sound insulation and the truck lining so it fits, and in fact the end of the shaft and the bushing carrier is right almost touching the inside of the box. So I also had to trim a little bit of the you can just barely see of this bracket. Anyway, it works, and it could have been a lot worse. If this had been further over an inch, I'd have been in real trouble. So the reason I'm installing the seat box now, it's a little premature, is because I'm thinking of making my own version of the center toolbox. The much loved and relatively rare center toolbox, a little shallow one that's available for down here. You can buy them brand new, they're a bit pricey, and I could bring one in from the UK, but I don't really have time. But I do have a sheet metal brake and a sheet metal shear, so I might try to make my own box. The reason I want this box is because I think it would be a good location to put all the solenoid valves. These are the valves that will run the airbags, and I'd like to put them somewhere obviously waterproof, but inside storage space on a pickup truck is so valuable. I don't want to put them in either of these lockers because I want them to be available for rough and tough stuff. So I'm thinking I'm going to put them in here and bring the airlines into the back. So we'll see. I've never actually made up a box with a sheet metal brake, so we'll see how that goes. But I certainly don't know why I would have thought it, but there's not much use of a shear making a box. Basically, once I made the outside and sheared it to the right size, the rest of it was tin's net work. I hate tin's net work. Alright, let's go over to the brake. Hopefully we'll have some more fun. Okay, the magic to a finger brake is the fingers. I mean, if we look at just using a brake, I'll just take a piece of scrap here. I got too much junk around here. Anyway, you put a piece of sheet metal in, clamp it with the fingers, and then bend it. Nothing much to it. Nice square bend. But when you're making a box, I want to make some of the folds while other folds basically conflict. They're in the same space. So I have to take some of the fingers out so as I make some of the folds, they don't interfere with each other. Sorry, we didn't shoot much of actually making the box. I got called out to dinner just as I was about to make the box, and I had to come back out and just finish it. I'm just off to choir, believe it or not. But anyway, I think the trick is to make just partial folds. What you have with a finger break, and I'm starting to realize, is sort of a throat limitation. And so you can only make a box just so deep because the sides start to interfere with the frame here. But I think I can probably now fold this a little bit further. If I bend these sections out while I'm folding them. Other side. Again, I don't know how much of this will appear in the final video, but well, I couldn't finish before I went to choir, but came back and had a quick go at it, and well, it's not gorgeous, but it'll certainly do. Throw a couple of rivets in the corners, and just relatively trim fit. Beauty! And I can toss a couple of these in there. Very good. So I'm trying to set up a fuel sender. I have a couple to choose from. Here's the original one. This is a positive earth one. The truck is a 59, so it was a positive earth truck to begin with, which means the fuel gauge on the truck is the old style positive earth one. So I really should be using a positive earth gauge. This one I've repaired several times and it's failed again, and I really don't feel like taking it apart and fixing it again. But I may end up doing that. The reason I'm content to possibly use a new sender is because I'm probably going to replace the gauge with an aftermarket gauge. I've already replaced the ammeter, the voltmeter, which I never had, fuel pressure, oil pressure gauge, and the temperature gauge, all in new Stuart Warner gauges. I may do a fuel gauge as well. Again, heresy. I know. But anyway, just so you know what I'm doing. This is a brand new Britpart fuel sender. It actually came to me with the wire already falling off the rivet on the inside, so then Britpart. Anyway, but I just wanted to check the resistance across it, because if I'm going to possibly use another gauge, I need to know the full and empty resistance. So let's just check that quick. Got the ohmmeter going here. Well, it's almost a dead short at full. Come down a little bit, around 30 ohms. Down to, at empty, around 256 ohms. So let's say 25 to short. In other words, to no resistance, down to, again, around 255, maybe 260. That actually is exactly what one of the available Stuart Warner gauges wants, so that's very handy. So I'm pleased with that. So this is probably the one I'll use. It is cheap, and I'll have to somehow resolder the wire onto the bottom of that rivet or come up with some sort of solution, but that's the nature of it. I'd actually bought another brand new Britpart fuel sender because I kind of wanted the diesel one, which has the two terminals, one for the low fuel light. In other words, when it comes all the way up, a light would go off in the dash, and I didn't think that was a bad idea. Kind of neat. This is one of the ones that sort of universally you have to solder the float on at different lengths because different tanks are different depths. But this one is so crappy. The wiper inside, basically, which is the arm that swings against the resistance wire that's wound around a card or something, comes on and off the resistance wire based on just the tiniest flex in here. As I had this set up to test, if I wiggle this at all, it would go to open, to short, it was just, it's utter rubbish. Anyway, so I'll be content with this one for now. I don't feel like paying $159 to get a genuine one. This will have to do in the meantime. Anyway, let's get buttoned up. See ya. Snowing. Beautiful out. Listen, I wanted to say the red 109 you've seen in the beginning of the last couple of sequences, that's the great 109 built by Patrick and Sean of Riverport Rovers. It was the, it's called Fliver, and it's the one that burned at the end of the 88 in a Day series. And Patrick and I and Nick Rebuilt it a couple years ago now, and Patrick's been driving it ever since. Anyway, great truck, but that's some early footage of it because I'm running out of footage of my own trucks. The truck you're going to see at the beginning, or you just saw, I guess, at the beginning of this video, is the 88 today, the Blue Bomber, which of course is all taken apart now. Anyway, this is my studio where I get to do my office work upstairs from the shop. Anyway, let's put this up on video. See ya.